Folks, before we begin, let me tell you something. Every now and then, a story comes along that reminds us what real strength looks like. And if you stay with me till the end, you'll meet a woman who survived what most never could, and a man who proved that nobody is meant to walk through their darkest hour alone. If you feel a single tug at your heart through this journey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that inspire. The wind cut sharp through the pines the night Emma Caldwell realized she was out of time, out of money, and out of places to go. 8 months pregnant, abandoned by the man who had sworn he'd build her a home, she stood alone in the cold foothills of Montana, her hands trembling, her breath fogging in the air, and her unborn child shifting beneath her ribs as if reminding her she was no longer fighting for one life, but two. Emma didn't cry. Not because she wasn't scared, but because she didn't have the strength left for tears. Instead, she rolled up her sleeves, pushed her fear aside like a stone in the path, and gathered the fallen pine logs scattered near the tree line. She'd build something, anything, to make it through the night. A wall. A roof. A shelter that could keep her baby safe from the freezing wind. It took hours. Her back burned, her ankles swelled, and her breath came in painful gasps. But slowly, painfully, that small shelter took shape, rough logs stacked in makeshift corners, branches woven like a blanket overhead. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't warm. But it was hers. And it was something to shield her child. By the time the last log thudded into place, dusk had turned the mountains blue and silent. Emma curled inside her creation, hands around her belly, whispering, "Just a little longer, sweetheart. Mama's trying. Mama's right here." She didn't know that, not far up the ridge, someone else was listening to the wind. Someone who lived in those mountains like part of the land itself, a man the locals called Reed Holloway, the quiet mountain man who preferred wolves and wind to the noise of town. He'd come down the ridge that evening following tracks, heavy, uneven footprints pressed into soft earth. A woman's footprints. Reed hadn't meant to pry. But something in those tracks, something about the way they wobbled, the depth of the weight, told him this wasn't someone out for a stroll. This was someone desperate. He followed them until he found the crooked little shelter tucked between pines. A faint glow inside. A figure curled small. He almost walked away. Mountain folk respected boundaries, but then he heard it. A soft whimper. Not scared. Not angry. Just exhausted. Reed stepped toward the shelter and spoke gently. "Ma'am? Don't be alarmed. My name's Reed. Are you all right in there?" Emma jerked upright, breath catching. She grabbed the nearest branch, not that it would protect her from anything. Who are you?" "A neighbor," he answered softly. "Or as close to one as these mountains get. I don't need help." But her voice broke right in the middle of the sentence. Reed didn't step closer. "Then I'll sit right here. Just in case you change your mind." Silence hung thick. Emma wrapped her arms around her belly, shivering, torn between pride and the painful truth. She was freezing, hungry, and barely holding herself together. A minute later, her voice cracked. Do you have water?" Reed moved slowly, placing a canteen by the entrance, then retreating to the rocks. "Right there." Emma reached out, took it, drank. For the first time in days, something warm, not fear, spread through her chest. Over the next hour, they talked through the wall of her shelter. She told him little at first, just her name, how far along she was. But something about his steady voice made her breathe easier. He didn't push. He didn't judge. He just listened. When she finally whispered, "He left me," Reed didn't answer with pity. He answered with conviction. "Then he didn't deserve either of you." Emma pressed a hand to her eyes, swallowing tears. No one had spoken to her with such certainty in months. Reed stood after a moment. "You've got courage, Emma. Building this shelter like you did, most folks wouldn't have survived 1 hour out here. But tonight's dropping below freezing. Let me help you to my cabin. It's safe, warm, and just down the ridge." She hesitated. Fear, pride, and exhaustion all warring inside her. "Why are you being kind to me?" Reed considered that for a long second. "Because everyone hits a storm eventually. And no one should face theirs alone." The words broke whatever was left of her resistance. Emma emerged shakily from the shelter. When she swayed, Reed caught her, slowly, carefully, as if she were something precious instead of the broken stranger she felt like. They walked together through the snow, her steps weak, his steady. Halfway up the ridge she whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm slowing you down." "You're carrying a whole person," Reed said with a small smile. "You're the strongest one here." Inside Reed's cabin, warmth wrapped around her like a blanket she didn't know she needed. He set her by the fire, brewed hot soup, and placed a quilt around her shoulders. Over the next days, Emma regained strength. Reed helped her mend clothes, boil water, stack wood, and rebuild the shelter properly, "just in case you ever want your own spot out there," he told her. She discovered he wasn't rough like he looked. He was gentle with animals, thoughtful with his words, and surprisingly funny when he let himself be. Emma told him her story in pieces, how the man she trusted had taken her into the wilderness with promises of a cabin and a future, then abandoned her when the money ran out. Reed listened with quiet fury, though he never said a harsh word. One evening, a sudden contraction made Emma gasp. Reed was at her side instantly. "Is it time?" I don't know," she whispered, breath trembling. Reed didn't panic. He guided her through breathing, kept the fire hot, and stayed beside her through every wave of pain. Hours later, in that humble mountain cabin, Emma brought a baby girl into the world, small, perfect, and crying loud enough to wake the whole forest. Emma sobbed, holding her daughter tight. I thought I'd have to do this alone." Reed smiled, really smiled, for the first time since she met him. "You'll never be alone again. Not if you don't want to be." Days turned into weeks. Emma healed, learned the rhythms of mountain life, and watched Reed fall in love with her daughter in a way that made her heart ache in the gentlest way. He carved a tiny cradle, fixed the old rocking chair, even sang in a low, rough voice when the baby fussed at night. One morning, Emma stood outside watching the pink sunrise. Reed joined her quietly. "You built your shelter with your own hands," he said softly. "Most folks would have given up. You didn't. You fought for your child before she was even born." Emma looked at him, tears gathering. "I only survived because you found me." Reed shook his head. "No. You survived because you're stronger than the storm that tried to break you. All I did was walk beside you." She held his gaze for a long moment. "Reed, what happens now?" He swallowed, nerves flickering in his eyes. "Whatever you want, Emma. If you want your own place, I'll help you build it. If you want to stay, this cabin's got plenty of room for the both of you. And I'd be honored to be in her life as long as you'll have me." Emma took his rough hand in hers, placed it gently on her daughter's tiny chest, and whispered, "We want to stay." And as the morning light spilled across the mountains, Reed Holloway, once a man who lived alone by choice, felt his life shift into something new, something warmer than the cabin fire, something that finally felt like home. Because sometimes, the people we're meant to walk with don't appear in moments of comfort, but in the moments when we're down to nothing but courage, an unborn dream, and the hope that someone, anyone, might say, "You don't have to face this alone." And if this story touched your heart even a little, dear viewers, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Somewhere out there, someone else needs a story like this, one that reminds them that even in the coldest storms, kindness still finds its way.